Welcome to the Miami Herald's High School Gridiron Report. I'm Manny Navarro.
And I'm Fernandez.
Dre, week one of the season is in the books, and quite honestly, we don't have any time for your nonsense, so let's get to Rewind.
It's like that, huh? You're just going to cut me out of the show?
Yeah. All right, as we start this week's Rewind, we start with the first regular season game played in Dade. Goldman taking on Reagan, and this one went down to the wire. We go to the fourth quarter. Goldman trailing 14-7, but not for long. Junior tailback Ladarius Bridges, number 7, breaks off this long run. Bridges would finish with 172 yards on 19 carries and score back-to-back touchdowns, one from 3 yards out and this one from 13 yards out to put Goldman up 19-13, but the Bison would battle back. Here, number 3, Keenan Springer breaks off a 37-yard touchdown run after a 2-point conversion run by quarterback Ivan Rosales. Reagan would go up 22-19, but Goldman would get the last laugh. With 22 seconds left, kicker Paul Galarsi, who missed an extra point earlier in the game, atones for his mistake with this 38-yard field goal. It's good, sends the game to overtime after Goldman's defense holds Reagan from scoring on 4th and goal. Gators quarterback Marco Osorio scores the game winner. Final score, Goldman 28, Reagan 22.
Jackson taking on Crop, where it was the Quentin Flowers show. Look at this sophomore's moves where he'd run for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns and throw for 187 yards and another touchdown. Here you see Flowers toss a 17-yard touchdown pass to Kennard Brown in the first quarter to give Jackson an 8-0 lead. The Generals will go into the half up 14-0 behind the running of tailback Tremaris Timmons. Timmons would finish with 125 yards on 15 carries, including this 3-yard touchdown run. Crop would cut Jackson's lead in the half, however, with Ladarius Murray would score on a touchdown run in the third quarter. But Flowers was just too much. Here he breaks off a long 27-yard touchdown run, and Crop's Kean Roman would find Johnny Durante for this late 40-yard touchdown pass, but it wasn't enough. Yeah, he'd fumble and he'd recover, so that counts. But Jackson would hold on for the 30-13 win.
All right, Coral Reef hosting Hialeah Gardens, and this one was clearly a mismatch. The Cougars take advantage of 8 Gladiators turnovers in this one, including this 25-yard interception return by Tyler Rosenblatt. 7-0 Coral Reef before you could even blink. Running back Treshawn Ward would score 4 touchdowns in this game, including this 40-yard touchdown burst. Coral Reef would also score twice on punts. University of Miami-bound cornerback Vernon Davis waits for the ball to fall, picks it up, scores on a 25-yard punt return. Julian Leslie would then score on this fumble recovery following a high snap on a punt. Somebody hit the mercy button, please. Final score, Coral Reef 64, Hialeah Gardens, nothing.
Edison taking on Varela, and we've got some sloppy field conditions in this one. We pick up the action in the second quarter with the Vipers already up 3-0. Tailback Bernard Saunders, number 6, goes to work on Edison's defense. Saunders would finish with 169 yards on 22 carries and score 2 touchdowns, including this 5-yard scamper to put the Vipers up 9-0. But Edison would respond. Stanley DuPont hauls in this pass from quarterback Mike Pierre, who had a great game, and picks up a big first down. Pierre would then haul in this 35-yard touchdown pass from his brother before the half, trimming Varela's lead to 9-6. Second half kickoff, and the momentum continues to swing to Edison as DuPont returns it deep into Varela territory. DuPont would cap the drive with this 5-yard touchdown run, and now Edison leads 12-9. Still in the third quarter, and now Saunders grabs the lead back for Varela. Look at number 6 run as he goes 31 yards later into the end zone, 15-12 Varela, but Edison would get the last word. Franklin Labdi would lead the Red Raiders back down the field and score on a 1-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter, and that's it. Edison pulls it off 18-15 and already matches its win total from last year.
All right, Northwestern taking on North Miami Beach at Trask Powell Stadium, and the Bulls were looking to get back on the right foot. Didn't start that way. We pick up the action in the first quarter, and NMB's Freddie Leroy, number 22, says, "Peace, my brothers." 80 yards later, he's in the end zone. 6-0 NMB before anyone could even take a sip of their sodas. But Northwestern was dominant after that. Quarterback Elgin Hilliard had the Bulls offense humming. Here he connects with Amari Cooper on a 38-yard touchdown pass to put the Bulls up 12-6 at the end of the first quarter. Hilliard would finish with 3 touchdown passes, including this beautiful 29-yarder to TJ Kennedy, perfectly thrown. Bulls would go into the half up 26-6. The story of this game was the balanced rushing attack we saw from Northwestern. Darius Tice, number 13, ran for 45 yards, and Fabian Johnson led the way with 72 yards on 5 carries. The Bulls would run for 195 yards in the game in all. Defensively, meanwhile, Eric Kinsey would help Northwestern cleaned things up. NMB would finish with just 112 yards on the ground after that opening 80-yard run. Basically, 32 yards on 25 carries. Bulls win 42-12. Okay, it's time for the game of the week. Preseason number 10, Belen hosting preseason number 11, Hialeah. Dre, you were there. Some real muddy field conditions. Your quick thoughts on this game. I know that Belen's Frankie Hernandez had a big game.
Had a tremendous game, but I mean, Belen, again, you can tell when they're at home, they know how to handle the situation. They've been through it before. Teams like Norland, Jackson, Edison back in the day, none of them could handle it. Hialeah joins that list now, and the Wolverines are excited heading into that Columbus matchup.
All right, let's go to the highlights where Belen, coming off a preseason loss to Tampa Jesuit, wanted to right the ship. First quarter action of the Wolverines on the march when Frankie Hernandez rumbles into the end zone. 7-0 Belen after the extra point. Now the second quarter, and Belen continues to pound the football. Here, quarterback Danny Admire fakes out the T-Reds and our cameraman John with the fake to number 33, Julio Ayala. Admire takes it and follows Alex Chica into the end zone. 14-0 Belen at halftime. Hialeah and quarterback Gary Vanderkuyp just had a rough day. Here, Vanderkuyp tries to scramble for some yards, gets hit, stumbles, and fumbles. Belen's Victor Perez Abreu is there to pounce on it. One of 4 turnovers on the day for the T-Reds. Here's another one. Vanderkuyp tries to go deep, but Eric de Cardenas is there to pick it off. One of 3 interceptions for Belen's defense on the day. Wolverines roll to a 24-0 win. Hialeah will have this week off before taking on Punta Gorda, Charlotte on September 16th. Belen, of course, they've got Columbus this week. All right, Dre, your overall thoughts on what happened in South Florida this past week?
Well, I mean, a lot of stuff happened. I mean, one was definitely University School's impressive win on Saturday. They rallied from a 21-7 second quarter deficit and captured a double OT win, 52-51 over Goose Creek High, the top-rated 4A team in South Carolina. The Suns did most of their damage through the air as quarterback Gunnar Holcomb passed for 356 yards and 4 touchdowns, completing 32 of 48 attempts. Jordan Cunningham caught 10 passes for 160 yards and 3 scores, including the eventual game-winning 10-yard pass in the second OT. Pretty much, they're picking up right where they left off after that title game last year.
Yeah, Cunningham was the big star, like I told you.
Except this time they won. Booker T. Washington, another team that got a big challenge from Carroll City, but they held on for a 39-26 victory. The Tornadoes have a big one this week with Central. Javon Shashadi, though, biggest individual performance through 8 touchdown passes, ties a Broward record, including 3 to Sean Lashbrook and Greg Mabin to set a new single-game record for Broward County as far as yards go. He threw for 537, and a big season opener for Calvary Christian with that new turf at the school. Shashadi finished with those career highs, also completed 16 of 22 passes. The Eagles pulled away after the game was tied 20-20 at the half.
Time to fast forward and let's make some picks, Jay. Last week, we both went 4-0 on the show, picking Belen to beat Hialeah, Northwestern to beat NMB, University to beat Goose Creek, and Cypress Bay to knock off Deerfield Beach. For some reason, on our Pigskin Challenge on MiamiHerald.com, I had Hialeah beating Belen. Not sure how that happened, but technical bug, I guess.
I told you to stop hitting the mouse too hard.
But anyway, I obviously picked Belen. Our records on the Pigskin Challenge after week 1 are Dre 10-1, Larry Bluestein and I are both 9-2. A lot of big games this week, Andre. Let's start with the Cuban Super Bowl. Columbus versus Belen, 7:30 p.m. Friday night at FIU.
Somehow, I don't think I'm going to see that on any banners this weekend when I go to the game. I hope.
Maybe the Pope Bowl.
Maybe. Well, honestly, I think, this series has been back, Columbus has owned it for the entire existence of it. Last year, we know that I thought Belen was finally going to end the jinx. I'm not going to make that mistake this year. I think Columbus wins. I think they're riding a lot of momentum coming off the victory at Plant. They had the game rained out this week, but they're always motivated for this one. Wolverines played well, but we know who owns this series so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going with Columbus. The Explorers have dominated. And quite honestly, I don't know why we keep calling this a rivalry. You got to, Belen, note to Belen, you got to win more often to call this a rivalry.
Nice.
All right, next up, St. Thomas Aquinas coming off that win at Prattville, Alabama 2 weeks ago. They're going to host Cypress Bay Friday night at 7. Dre, the Lightning struggled a little bit against Deerfield Beach, winning 24-7 last week to open the season, but the Cypress Bay regrouped this week and stunned the Raiders.
I don't think so. I think Aquinas showed that they're still strong when they went out there to Prattville. I think it'll be a good game because Cypress Bay, the way they play offense is conducive to stay in the game. But after a while, Aquinas will outlast them with their size and speed. Yeah,
I agree with you. I'm picking Aquinas. This will be a good learning experience for the Lightning in the end. They'll have to realize that if they want to play against the best teams, they got to bring it every single week. All right, speaking of bringing it, Booker T. Washington coming off a bit of a shaky performance against Carroll City. They face Central, who had its game canceled by Lightning against South Ridge. They play Friday night at Traz. What do you got?
Well, it's interesting because this is a team that showed a lot the first week, beating Northwestern in the preseason. But then you look at last week, and they show that they are still a young team, still can be a little sloppy, make some turnovers. I think they can win this game, but it's almost a prove-it week for both them and Norland this week, and I think they have to prove they can knock off a team like Central that's still strong. For now, I think I'm going to go with the Rockets.
Safe pick by Dre. I'd like to pick the Rockets in this game, but I'm going to go against you for the first time all season. I'm actually going to pick Booker T to stun Central.
That's not what it says in the script.
That's not what it says in the script, but I'm making the change right now.
Nice. Self-edit, huh?
Even though Central looked good against Dwyer, I'm definitely picking Booker T. All right, last game. Northwestern versus Norland, a Saturday night special at Traz. I'm picking Duke Johnson and Norland in the upset.
I wouldn't call it too much of an upset because we have hyped Norland to be the team that can prove themselves. But you know how the Bulls are when they're the underdog. They're always going to feel motivated to win. And this is a coin flip game for me. But since you went with that shirt, look at the shirt he's wearing. He's going with Norland. Fine. Norland proves it.
Wow,
they have to back up the hype. This has to be the game that they back up the hype.
All right, that does it for our show.
See you all next week.